Hey guys, Pete here. This is my top moments of Twin Peaks Season 3, Part 7. It's an episode that was completely filled with moments, so these are the top of the top. I'm going to try to get through them pretty quickly because I want to get on with the rewatch and start doing the recap and review. The plot moved along a lot here, and there's a ton to talk about, but this episode had so many payoffs and so many awesome moments that I wanted to put this out first. So let's jump right into it. If you haven't watched Part 7 yet, there will be spoilers from here on out. So the first two moments that I thought about were funny moments, and the first one was Jerry Horne lost in the woods. I cracked up. I don't know why. Not much happened in the scene other than him being on the phone with Ben, but it was just acted well, and it was hilarious to me. The next one was when Frank Truman popped up his computer in his office. That floored me for some reason. I mean, it's encased in a wooden case, but there's also like a switch or like a lever mechanism involved there that brings it up like so smoothly and coolly. Classic original Twin Peaks stuff there. Like a lot of people have been saying that they're missing all that original, flavor or whatever you would call it. And I think this is exactly what made the early episodes of Twin Peaks like that, sucked everybody in. I mean, it's just a quirky place where, you don't know what's going to happen. The next big moment was in Buckhorn, South Dakota, when we see the guy who looks like he's covered with oil or soot walk through the hospital. This is the guy that was in the jail cell adjacent to Bill Hastings in the first episode, and he's lurking around where the investigator from the Pentagon is talking to the police department. Some people have said this is the Woodsman or the lumberjack from above the convenience store, that scene that we've seen. But we really don't know who he is, and he's not credited at the end. I actually read an interview with this guy who played him the other day and said that if he was credited, it would give up his whole story. So, yeah, he's the mysterious guy, and he is roaming the halls in the coroner's office or the hospital, wherever they're at. The next big moment was the weird pan into the wood in Ben Horne's office. There was the stretched out scene there with him and Beverly, and when it ended, the camera made a mysterious pan that passed over the lamp and went into the wood paneling on the wall. This brings up a lot of speculation material, such as the fact that Josie is trapped in the wood, or was when she died, inside the Great Northern. But also, if you remember, Audrey had little secret passageways and things like that behind the walls. So yeah, that was kind of a neat thing that I will definitely be looking at closer in the recap and review. The next big moment was Dougie Coop moving like a cobra to stop Ike the Spike. We saw Agent Cooper in his Dougie life spring to action and rescue Janie E., who also had some great moments in this episode that I won't even get to. But yeah, Ike the Spike shows up with a gun. Agent Cooper's FBI instincts come out. He wrestles him to the ground. We get an appearance from the arm, who tells him to squeeze his hand off. And then we see that there's some skin left behind. So that was just incredible. And I like the whole way that was set up with the people talking, like being interviewed afterwards. Dougie Jones moved like a cobra. The next big moment, or moments I should say, is Diane. All of what she did basically was awesome, but her supreme moment was definitely in the hallway whenever she asked Agent Tammy Preston, "What was your name again?" Tammy answers, "Tammy," and Diane says, "Fuck you, Tammy." And that was definitely one of the prize moments of episode 7. Another funny moment that just completely, I actually went back and rewound this a couple times when I was watching it on the first watch, was Gordon saying to Diane when they meet her at her apartment, "Diane, this might require a slight change of attitude on your part." And I was thinking about this, I won't get into too much of it, but I was thinking about the fact that if we have to not have Cooper, a lot of people are really concerned and upset about the fact that Cooper isn't his old self. Which I understand where they're coming from. Having Gordon and Albert together, that sort of functioning in the FBI role here, is at least an equal trade-off. Like, we would never have this much Gordon if Agent Cooper was doing all the investigation. And the other thing is, Albert, this is Albert's last appearance. I mean, he's passed away. Miguel Ferrer, who plays him, so this is really fun to watch. Everything with those two. The next moment was also a Gordon moment, and that was his explanation of the fingertips and the backwards Irev when they met Cooper, Evil Coop that is, at the prison a couple episodes back. He sort of has Tammy hold out her hands, and he goes across the fingers. It's Irev, very good to see you, so on and so forth, and explains that the ring finger, the left-handed ring finger, is the spiritual, I forgot to write it down, but yeah, the spiritual center or whatever he called it. So yeah, that was really interesting. And I was surprised that they went back to that in so much detail. Like when we saw those prints beginning, we were sort of like, maybe it's a continuity error, maybe it's that, but it was pretty specifically done in a way that we would see it and then it would be explained later. So that's pretty promising when you think about the season going forward. The next big moment was the body in Buckhorn is probably Major Briggs, but we found out that it didn't actually age over the last 25 years. So that is just a mystery on top of a mystery there. So very interesting. Not much more I can say about that right now. The next big moment was another one I really laughed at. It was Evil Coop's photo with his house in Brazil. I don't know why, just the way it was presented and the way Albert said it's the only photo we have of him. And it's so funny. I mean, look at it. But yeah, so we found out they did have some connection with Evil Cooper before he ended up where he's at now, but very little information to go along with that. And also, I didn't pick this out as a specific moment because the whole sequence was kind of good, but at the end of the day, Evil Coop is now once again on the loose. He's with Ray. We don't know where he's headed, but it's going to definitely lead to something. I mean, that's pretty exciting. The next big moment was exactly what, if you asked me what would be the biggest moment I was hoping for in this episode would be, I would have said that we would find out what was going on with the diary pages, which, we found out that they were absolutely Laura's diary pages, thanks to a really detailed back and forth between Hawk explaining it to Frank Truman. We found out that not only is it the part where she talks about what Annie told her in the dream, but also about the Leland connection, and that Leland probably is the person who left them in there whenever he was being interviewed for the Jacques Renault murder. Now, there's a couple interesting things. One is that this is perfect. I know we've all thought of that idea where, Agent Cooper's had said, if I ever go missing, I want you to be the one looking for me, to Hawk. And it's pretty perfect how it's set up in that he is, besides Agent Cooper, he's the only one that really kind of buys into the supernatural explanations of things right off the bat, if it makes sense. He's not really resistant to the idea that there's other forces at play in things. So he came up with it. He was able to explain to Frank Truman, who wasn't there whenever all this stuff was going on. And unfortunately, he reached out to his brother Harry S., who was the, sheriff back in the original run, but he was too sick to be able to have a conversation. But Hawk gets the idea, that what Annie Blackburn said as far as the Goodale being in the lodge. He says, if the Goodale's in the lodge, then whatever came out of the lodge is not the Goodale, right? So that is pretty excellent. Those are things that, we've been waiting a long time to see move forward, and they are officially moving forward. And as a side note, Annie Blackburn was kind of written out in The Secret of History of Twin Peaks as far as being Norma's sister. Like, Norma, in The Secret History, Norma's last name is different. The woman who came in on the TV show who did the restaurant reviews as her mother is not her mother in the book. So that's something to keep in the back of our heads for later. And like I said, that would have been the greatest moment by far, except for Warren Frost coming back as Doc Hayward was absolutely the scene stealer. It was the perfect blend of the original run meets the new season 3 that I could possibly imagine. We see it on that funny-ass wooden computer pop-up desk thing that Frank Truman has. Doc Hayward's out enjoying retirement. He says he doesn't remember what he had for breakfast, but he does remember what happened with Cooper, and he drops some pretty big bombs here. He tells us that he brought him in to check on him, went to do his rounds, and then saw Cooper fully dressed later coming out of the ICU, where he thinks that he was probably visiting Audrey Horne, who was in the coma. So that is pretty big. It's probably going to lead Frank Truman to Audrey Horne, and we're probably going to get a payoff there sooner rather than later, because we saw that Frank called Harry right away. So yeah, but it was just great. I mean, it was a casual conversation, like with an old friend, and that's the feeling that I got at the end of that scene, was that I'm interacting with this character from a show that I loved when I was a young man, and it's just good to see him. I don't know how to better explain it, but it was just awesome. And I'm not sure if we'll get any more Doc Hayward than that, but it's really awesome because, as you know, Warren Frost is the actor who played Doc Hayward. He passed away after shooting these scenes. He's the father of Mark Frost, who's the co-creator with David Lynch. And this show aired in the U.S. on Father's Day of 2017, which I imagine is the first Father's Day that passed since Warren passed away. So yeah, it's pretty powerful. This was a great episode. I really don't see how anybody who's complaining about the pace can complain after this one. I mean, several of the plot lines moved forward. Great acting, great delivery, lots of interesting moments that we just went over, and a ton to speculate on. So I am going to get to work on the recap and review. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to tell me what your favorite moments were in the comments. Subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.